Okay, so welcome to the March, oops, sorry, I just need to get rid of something in front of my screen. Sorry about that. So welcome to the March Community Board meeting of for Te Awamutu. We'll get underway with the apologies. So have we got any apologies for tonight's meeting? Don't think we do. All good. And item 2, disclosure of members' interests. Is there anything tonight that anyone needs to disclose? No. Kane, have you got your, no, it's not your hand, it's my hand on your picture. Item 3, late items. Now we do have a late item and Kieran's got the wording. We've just received the information for an update in fees and charges, and for us to be able to get a submission in, we're going to need to firstly make a motion for the late item, but also that we agree to do a submission on those fees and charges, which are due in a few days prior to our next community board meeting. So Kieran?
Yes, so as you've said, Madam Chair, that's correct. So the reason why we need this to come on as a late item is that it falls outside the next meeting, and the submission's closed before the next meeting happens. So the recommendation is that the Te Awamutu Community Board accepts the schedule of fees and charges 22-23 as a late item.
Okay. So, we firstly need to move that we accept the late item, though, don't we?
That's the motion there.
I'm happy to move that.
Included in it. Sorry, I'm not listening.
I'm happy to move the motion to accept it as a late item.
Yep, and someone to second that, Lou. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Righto, so we'll address that a little bit later on. We'll now move on to item 4, which is the confirmation of the order of the meeting. To the best of my knowledge, we don't need to be making any changes. So I'll move that the Te Awamutu Community Board confirm the order of the meeting. Can I have someone to second that, please?
Are we just going to put the late item at the end?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
If that's all right with everybody. Normally where we tend to discuss them, isn't it, at the end? There's actually probably not much to discuss in it, so we'll just come back to it at the end of my report. Right, so
I'll move that then. I'll move that it's the correct order.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. And someone to second?
Yeah.
Richard, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, item 6, pages 8 to 11, the confirmation of the minutes. We do actually have a correction there to be made on page, let me just get to the right page, I'll see where it is. Confirmation of the minutes. Item 7, the draft transport strategy. We've got the date in there saying ending the 8th of April. That should have read the 8th of March. So if there is nothing else that anybody spotted in our minutes from last time that needs changing or any concerns there, everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Okay. So can we move that the Te Awamutu Community Board confirm the minutes of the meeting held 8th of February 2022 as circulated with the agenda as a true and correct record of the proceedings, with a correction to item 7, draft transport strategy from 8 April to 8 March. So can I have someone to move that, please? Kane, thank you. Seconder. Jill, thank you. Those in favour?
Jill wasn't there, I don't think.
Oh, no, it wasn't either. Sorry.
Oh, no, you can't. Yeah, sorry. Good spotting, Susan. Richard, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, so item 7, the Turata Reserve Water Tower. So we're going to take this as read, but Brad, did you have any comments to add to the comments about the water tower on pages 12 and 13?
Thanks, Madam Chair. No, essentially tonight is just the update to let you know of the intention to start this in the coming weeks of the water tower removal. The team has met with Manawa Whenua on site yesterday, and following this tonight, they'll be informing the Kiki Police House and Temple Cottage group tomorrow morning. And then we'll be commencing with the dismantling, which I anticipate, well, I think it's about 2 weeks once they're on site. So happy to take any questions on this one.
Cool. Thanks, Brad. Has anyone got any questions in regard to the water tower? No, everybody's, Lou?
Yeah, just quickly, Brad. The fence up there on the Naroto Reserve, some of the private property, it's actually fallen down. Is the council actually involved in those repairs, or what is the story?
Sorry, is that at Naroto or is that Rewi Manapoto Reserve?
Yeah.
So at Rewi Manapoto Reserve, we're working with owners of both sites, because it's actually Manapoto land, and so we're working with them to come to an arrangement. But essentially, it is between the two parties, but we're supporting Manapoto on that site. Oh, you're on mute. Sorry.
I just
So you're on mute.
Yep.
We didn't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. I just had a private person ring me, and they just had a bit of the boundary fence fall down. So they were just talking about it. They actually own the house that it's rented.
Yeah. So we met with them on Friday last week.
I just had a quick question, not directly related to that, but I was down there the other day, and there seems to be a lot of, it is only chalk fortunately, but a lot of anti-vax, anti-COVID graffiti happening down there. Apparently they've been desecrating Rewi Maniapoto's site and around that area, and up in the road in front of the Māori Women's Welfare League, and apparently even down on some of the grave sites, I believe. So I'm just sort of letting you know, if you didn't already know, that that's been going on. But there's a lovely team of Māori women that have been cleaning it each day that it appears. So I'd just like to pass on a big thank you from the community board to those ladies. So if anyone is watching tonight and knows any of those ladies, please pass on our gratitude for cleaning that all up for us. So yeah, so if there's no further questions about specifically about the water tower, can we move that the Te Awamutu Community Board receive the information contained in the report Te Rata Reserve Kihi Water Tower Removal of Rob Sinclair, Project Delivery Officer. So can I have someone to move that, please? Kane, thank you. Seconder. Jill, thank you. Those in favour?
Aye.
Right.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Righto, so we've got quarterly reports. John Miles, unfortunately, is unavailable to join us tonight. Property Projects Manager. His report was on pages 15 to 24. And then we have on pages 25 to 46, the Community Services Quarterly Report, but we do have Brad here as Acting Manager of Community Services to speak to that. So Brad, we'll hand back to you again. Thanks.
Kia ora, thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll just go over a couple of highlights from the quarterly report. There's another very busy period for the community services whānau. We're continuing to see real high levels of vandalism across our parks and public toilets. And I've mentioned it previously that the damage seems to be more intentional now rather than opportunistic. We're seeing arson, we're seeing people using tools to cut or remove assets, and we're seeing increased graffiti and a general disregard for the public assets. Even just a couple of weeks ago here in Te Awamutu, we had the fire brigade and police called to Albert Park, where someone had lit on a small fire in the toilets there. It staggers my belief just how people think it's okay to trash assets and leave a trail of destruction to be cleaned up. And we're unsure of what the reason is in the spike, but one can only presume it's linked to the ongoing fatigue or frustrations or uncertainty of COVID-19. We're still working through our park security improvement project to address some of the hotspots that we have around the district. Bulmer's Landing and Te Awamutu Cemetery are two of those sites. There have been some delays as a result of suppliers and products being affected by the COVID-19 delays. And as you'll be aware, the Public Places Bylaw, specifically focusing on antisocial driving, that you had an involvement in putting forward, was supported by a Strategic Planning and Policy Committee last week. So that's something that we're really looking forward to working with or utilising to assist us further, especially for those remote areas. Our libraries had a very busy quarter. October saw the closure of the library, under Alert Level 4, and we began our click and collect service again. The high issues of books through November and December offset the lack of issues through October. We then moved into the COVID-19 protection framework. We transitioned from orange to red, and the libraries, along with the rest of our council buildings, became or required vaccine passports to enter other facilities. This did create some angst from some members of the public, and the teams did fantastic dealing with some difficult conversations during that time. And our online click and collect services continue to operate, and for those who cannot access the libraries physically, and they're actually doing really, really well. Those services, they even now, they're continuing to increase that service. The parks, we're still struggling to recruit and backfill some of our key positions and teams. Our reserves planner role has been vacant since early December, and we're currently in the second round of recruitment for that role. And we still have vacant mower operators and gardener roles. And to maintain our level of service, we're using contractors to support us with some of our mowing. On a real positive note, things have been progressing really well with the Skatepark Renewal and planning for the play and parkour spaces at Centennial Park. The drop-in sessions we had on site in December were really well attended and some really good feedback received. The feedback was actually overwhelmingly positive, to the point where we're able to progress the project, and we're about to commence work on site later this month. So there are a few highlights out of the report. I'm happy to take any further questions.
Okay, so have we got any questions for Brad? Kane?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, Brad, I just, on the vaccine passes, what's the situation around when the review is going to be for non-vaccinated people to be able to use them? There's a number of updates, I guess, since, from the last month or so, the police are able to go back to work and transmission rates are largely similar. Doesn't seem to be any real need for them.
I might hand that over to Sally to respond to that, okay?
If I can, through the chair, we are continually reviewing the situation that we have. Obviously, within our community at the moment, the infection rates are the highest that we have seen during the whole COVID period. So at this point of time, there is no changes. A review was done recently and there are no changes to the current policy, but it will be reviewed again once we get, obviously get through this Omicron peak that we're experiencing at the moment. So Kane, is all of our information regarding the policy and where we stand is available on our website.
Yeah, in terms of the transmission though, there's no difference between if you're vaccinated or not, because there's pretty much everyone's getting it now.
Kane,
people have been triple vaccinated.
Sorry, can I just stop you there on that? Because we're not meant to be having an issue for the community board meeting tonight about transmission rates of COVID. I think Sally's probably answered your question as well as she can. I understand that you've got concerns around that.
No, and she hasn't.
Just let me finish. Unless your point relates to them being able to change anything, then I think we need to move on. If it clearly does, I'm happy for you to continue, but it needs to actually, like Sally has pretty much said all she can do. There's not much else she can change. So will it change it?
Well, I've got some follow-up questions on what she said. So
okay, so you can ask your question.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So
cool.
if you let me do it, I'll do it. So I guess the question is, when was the actual follow-up?
When
was the discussion?
In terms of a review of our current approach?
Yeah.
So I would need to check in terms of the timeframes, but I understand there was an internal review done last week or the week before.
Yeah, so my point, my point is that even within the last week or 2 weeks, there's been a significant amount of change. So I would be requesting or just making the comment that there needs to be at least a weekly review of this, because I think you would have seen Nina Parker's legal documents come through, basically questioning this whole thing. So that would be, I'd be saying, why are we not reviewing this weekly? That's my question. That would be my question.
So in terms of if the review was done in the last week, it has been done weekly. We do identify within that it will be regularly reviewed, which it is, Van. But Kane, take on board your comments there. I don't have anything further to add apart from what I've already highlighted this evening.
Cool, thanks, Sally. Okay, let's move on. Is there any other questions for Brad or Sally for that matter in regard to their report? Richard, sorry, saw your hand there.
Yeah, Brad, just a couple of questions. For the damage to the property, is all of it reported to the police each time?
No, look, it's not all of it is. I just had a conversation with the staff this week to pick up that conversation again, just to touch base with the community constables, just to see, what we can do. I mean, the biggest stuff always is, yes, but there's a lot of the small stuff as well that sort of goes, or potentially slips through the cracks. Things like, even over the last couple of weekends, we've lost a good number of our pedestrian counters and toilets, and to date that hasn't been reported, but that's something that we are looking to catch up with Deb Thurgood and Ryan Fleming in the next couple of weeks, and just see what our next steps are, or what we should or could be reporting.
Okay. And on Monday I was out at Karongia, and there were some sprayers in a vehicle that had a vehicle following as well, that had a sign that they were spraying. They had no flashing lights, nothing working on their vehicles. I thought that would have been a requirement for them to have those alert signals.
Yeah, they definitely need to be following their traffic management plan, whatever that may be. But what site was that specifically?
That was on Franklin Street.
Franklin Street.
Yeah.
And do you recall what day? I'm happy to follow up. But
that was Monday, it was probably 11:30.
Okay, no, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely follow up with our contractors. I'm not sure if it's ours or transportation's, but yeah, we'll definitely look into that.
Yeah, I couldn't see any signage as to who it was either.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. Just quickly too, has there been any further developments on Lake Naroto?
There's a whole lot of stuff going on in the background. So Mayor Jim last week mentioned a potential product that could be used. So we've got some staff doing some investigation work into that in the background at the moment, and preparing a memo. And we're still doing our ongoing response. Today was a good day. We received no dead waterfowl from the collection today, which is good, but we still are seeing a few dead eels and fish coming through. So things are a lot better than what they were a few weeks ago. The lake is now open, and the water, the cyanobacteria levels are low enough that recreational activity can proceed on there at the moment. But it's always a case of just monitoring that situation. And another good news story, just today I got some emails this evening. The boat ramp's now completed, so that'll be open to the public again tomorrow. So yeah.
Okay, I just had a couple of quick questions. Oh, Jill, did you have a question? You need to go off mute though.
Sorry, you can go first, Ange, that's fine. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to ask, in regard to the cemetery, are those gates being locked again yet? Because I know as a patroller on community board, they keep being left open. They used to always be locked. at
They
night.
should, they should be getting locked, yes. So if there's
Well, I don't think they are. So would it be helpful if the patrollers used antenna or something and just let you know each time we go past and they're being left unlocked?
yeah, that'd be cool.
Because I
So
can
that we know, yeah.
put
You can
that
follow up with the
request.
contractor.
Yeah,
I do know the contractor currently, obviously with the Omicron outbreak, is struggling a little bit with staff numbers. So if it's something recently over the last couple of weeks, then
I'm not talking, I'm talking a little bit
Okay.
further back. I've noticed for a while because we've actually been on my Saturday patrol driving up around the cemetery.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And, you know, like this should be locked, you know, and I'd seen, I think towards the end of last year, you may have commented about some stuff starting to happen in the cemetery. And I'm like, why is this still being left unlocked? Kiki Domain's another one that can be a bit hit and miss too, it being locked.
okay,
So
no, cool.
someone
for
might
that.
just want a gentle reminder. And I also have got another email to send through to you in regard to the rubbish bins at the Memorial Park, further to our discussion this morning. We've got one of the Memorial Park group have taken a number of photos and sent through an email that I'll forward to you. But I thought the interesting part was that she said the previous contractors were really nice, really helpful. This one actually doesn't seem to care a lot. And their opinion is not as good. So I wanted to pass that on. Maybe cheaper is not better. I don't know if it was cheaper or not, but
Okay, no, thanks.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely aware of that situation, and we'll find out with the contractors to make sure. There seems to be during the crossover, something's come off the radar, and collections didn't seem to happen over the weekend. But yeah, definitely on our radar to try and address that.
And I did mention to you about Anzac Park rubbish bin too. That was just like completely opened and overflowing. Cool. No, thank you. So it's obviously a bit of an issue around the place at the moment. Lots of people are enjoying the nice weather, but obviously, you know, having picnics and lots of rubbish is going with that. So, Jill, you wanted to ask Brad something?
Yeah, thank you, Brad. You're wearing lots of hats tonight by the sound of things.
Chugging a few balls, yeah.
This might be. So just a couple of curly ones. So on a map, we've got T11, if this is part of you, if you have a little bit of knowledge, which is behind on Cambridge Road behind the Pack and Save.
I know we are, yep.
Yep. So, and I stand to be corrected here, but the council bought the land for housing at some stage, and then it didn't go on the annual plan. It wasn't going to be looked at till 2035. And then there was a change that it was going to be looked at before that, and a contractor might be involved. Do you have any more knowledge on that?
Sorry, Jill, I don't. Sally, you might have some more information on that.
Yeah, so if I can through the chair, Jill, this is actually under the property report that John Miles is obviously not here to present tonight.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we can take questions back to John to be able to get a response to you. Obviously in T11, you're right, there is land that has been is put aside for council development. So maybe if you want to fire through your questions to us, we can get John to come back to you on that.
Yeah, lovely, thank you. So I've got another property question, but I'll just wait. I think it's property. I'll wait till the next report then, even though Brad will be answering it. Yeah.
Property or community services?
Well, I don't know. So just quickly, just wondering on behalf of the Climax train, any news on what's happening with that?
So I'll jump in there, Brad. So through the chair again. I understand that myself and Gary Knighton are due to meet with the actually Councillor Lou Brown, I think, has requested a meeting around the Climax engine and opportunities for the future, obviously in terms of the site that's been purchased for council for Te Arawai within town. So I think that meeting is upcoming around what's needed there and fundraising, etc., that's required for that. So obviously the engine itself is still in situ in terms of its current location, but confirm next steps we need to agree with the group.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Just further to that question, how much longer is it allowed to stay where it is? Because I thought the whole part of the issue around this was that building was not being leased any longer, or there was something about where it's is in
So
Daphne Street?
in terms of our depot site, we still currently lease there. I couldn't tell you what the end date of that lease is, but obviously it is still a lease site for our depot team there in terms of where the engine is. So if that lease does come up, then that does pose a challenge going forward.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was a bit sooner, but no, all good, thank you. Okay, well, if there's no more questions for Brad around his report, I did just want to have one mention of support for Cambridge and their library. I think it is very, very important that Cambridge get some support to address their library situation. Having to put books on the floor like that is really, really sad, and that they're having to, I think, fence off spaces for them to stack stuff. You know, I really think that that should have been in the long-term plan personally, but I would just like to offer them some support to say, I hope that council are looking at a library for Cambridge, because the photos clearly show they need it. So without further ado, can we please have someone to move that the Awamutu Community Board receive the quarterly property services report of John Miles, Manager Property Projects, and B, Community Services Quarterly Report to 31 December 2021 of Brad Ward, Acting Manager, Community Services.
I
Jill,
do.
thank you. And could I have someone to second that?
Yeah.
Richard, those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much, Brad. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Now we move on to item 9, the Treasury Report, on pages 47 to 49. So is there anything from there that anyone would like to discuss? I do have a quick update for you when I get to the right page. No one's got anything. I've just had a brief discussion with Bill Harris in regard to the funds for the, make sure I get, oh gosh, where's the right page? Sorry.
Rangiaowhia Historic Trust,
Thank you, Rangiaowhia Historic
page
Trust.
49.
Yep, got it. Thank you. I went the wrong way with my button. So I spoke to Bill, and they're very keen to get on and put some signage up to go with the PO that are already there. So I double checked on the original application, and that definitely fits in with the original application. So with a bit of luck, it sounds like there might be some progress happening there, and we'll see that come off soon. Richard.
Yeah, I understood that the original was for Waharoa, not signage.
No, it does say Waharoa and supporting signage.
So is it going to be a Waharoa or not?
Pardon?
Is it going to be a Waharoa?
Well, can someone clarify exactly what a Waharoa is? Someone told me that it was another name for a PO, that Waharoa, but they may have told me incorrectly. I probably should have been a step ahead and confirmed that. Does anyone know exactly what a Waharoa is?
To the best of my knowledge, Madam Chair, Waharoa is an entranceway, often with a structure that comes over here.
Often with
The arch.
yeah, but it doesn't necessarily have to have the archway, does it?
I'd have to follow that up for you, sorry.
Are we going to be, after all this, I mean, they want to use it to put signage with the PO that have been put there. So if they use it for the signage component and they don't have the Waharoa, is that going to be a problem?
Gateway. The Waharoa is a gateway and entrance, yeah.
So it doesn't specifically have to be, you know, you could use PO as a gateway entrance, can't you? Seen them do that before.
I think it doesn't usually have, it's has the two posts and then they meet in a peak. So that I imagine there is quite some significance to the construction of them. As I recall, Richard, was this because they were struggling sourcing appropriate trees for this? That's what it is, isn't it? And so it's wallowed along because they've struggled to find the appropriate material to use for the Waharoa. That was my understanding from the deep, dark recesses of my brain.
Mine too. So, I mean, really, basically, it comes down to they'd like to use it for signage. There has been PO put there. Are we happy for them to use their money that we agreed to back in 2016 to do the signage to go with the PO?
I guess my question, Ange, would be whether the intention is still to erect and use the balance of those funds for Waharoa, because that's what that's the significant part of that grant, right? I mean, signage, cost of signage is probably significantly less, I would think, than a Waharoa. So I guess I would want to,
oh, well, I'll just check. Sorry.
So I would have thought that the signage was sort of supplementary or additional to the Waharoa. The Waharoa will have the spiritual meaning attached to it, and the signage would be more interpretive. So I guess if they're intending to follow through with the Waharoa once the resources are located and found and deemed appropriate, then cool. But I would hate for them to fall short.
Well, I'm wondering if
signs.
I'm wondering if they've put PO there that they're not doing Waharoa, because they're not going to put PO and a Waharoa, are they? I'll have to check in with Bill. I'll check back with Bill and just double check that. But they are, when I spoke to him, they were keen to get the signage and the storyboards done and start using that money anyway. So I'll just double check on that, on whether there is any intention to do a Waharoa still or not.
Through
Sally?
the chair, I think what might be advisable is, I think because there has been some time since the application and where we are now, that potentially it might be a good idea for Bill or to come back and have a chat to the community board around what they want to do with that funding now, because I think it has, what we're talking, almost 6 years, is that right?
Yeah.
So maybe, and I think the questioning has been there from the boards since the time that I've been here to support you, is what does that funding look like? So and what are they going to achieve? So maybe there's an opportunity for Bill to come and talk to the community board at a future meeting and discuss the options there, and then talk about that funding there. So just to make sure it aligns with the application that was granted the funding on.
Okay. Oh, well, I'll touch base with him and invite him along and just have that quick discussion about where they're going with that, if he's got time, because I know that he's usually pretty stretched for things, but if he can come, I'm sure he will. So that, as I say, that was just a brief conversation I had with him yesterday, and it was more the fact that the signage did tie in with their original application, and sorry, I did assume that the PO must have replaced the Waharoa, but yeah, I think you're right to clarify that. Okay, so we also, no, we don't need any. Is there anything further specifically related to the Treasury report? No. Okay, let's move that then. That the Treasury report, Te Awamutu Community Board of Ngāta Milne, financial accountant for the period ended 31st of January 2022 be received. Can we have someone to move that? Jill, thank you. Second. Kane, thank you. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Right, return of unused funds on page 50. And there's a little note here that says Kieran.
This one, through you, Madam Chair, this one is pretty much just a dotting of the I's, crossing of the T's, so the audit can trace the money trail out and then back in. So it's the money has already been returned. It's just, like I say, just giving it an audit trail.
I'm happy to make the recommendation, Ange.
Thanks, Susan. So Susan's moved it. Can I have someone to second that, please? Lou, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Done. Righto. On to my report, which isn't too onerous. So the urban miners, we had another great day on Sunday, Lou, didn't we, with over $2,000 of e-waste collected. And I did my first delivery of batteries to them, which they haven't weighed yet. I was hoping that Mark would have got back to me by now so I could have let you know what the weight was, but they haven't quite got to that yet. And anyone know any volunteers or anything? We're looking for more volunteers to help us. And also, most importantly, big congratulations to the Urban Miners team run by the Cambridge Rotary on winning Beautiful New Zealand Community Award for their great work removing the e-waste from our community. So really grateful to them. Their operation is getting bigger and bigger. They're starting to pull bits apart and on-sell it. And as I say, are desperately looking out for volunteers. Lou, did you want to add something in regard to the Urban Miners?
Yeah, they're expanding their, as you say, they're dismantling back at their Arnold Street depot. The big thing was that you didn't get yours weighed because they're having their working bee on Thursday. Okay, so they'll do it all on Thursday. They just had to go through those batteries and do them all together because unfortunately they all got preloaded into a container, but yours are separate with your bag, but they're all in a big container. We had a very big volume this time of televisions, which was interesting. And we're expanding into dismantling air conditioning units, and they're also expanding into taking a lot of more material out of microwaves, because magnetrons are very, very valuable to everybody. So we're being able to do that. And I'm designing with them a compression unit made out of, would you believe it, a wood splitter to compress the old microwave actual containers so that the actual box that the microwave was in, the metal box, can be crushed and take up a lot less area. So yeah, that's
Cool.
where we're at.
Thanks, Lou. So yeah, so that's going really well. As I mentioned there, the already briefly, the battery, I popped that in a couple of weeks ago, just before we went canoeing down at Pack and Save, and without any advertising, it's already filled up the main alkaline, you know, AA's, AAA's, that sort of type of battery. There was a big handful of button batteries already in there. Sally's already apparently had some inquiries from some other council related groups that are interested in coming and having a look at our unit to also replicate it and do the same thing. Mike's very happy with it so far. I am keen now to maybe just do a little press release, really to thank the sponsors, being Pack and Save and Native Timber Joinery. I'm a little bit scared though, based on how quickly it filled up in the first 2 weeks, that if we put it in the paper, it might get a bit overwhelmed. So I'll just have to make sure I have lots of buckets on board, ready for those to be emptied. But no, pretty stoked with the way that's going so far. Lou?
If you put your ad in, and just say that you can actually put labels onto a milk bottle, 1 litre milk bottle or a jam jar, and keep them at home and then just drop them off.
Yeah, but they've got to buy those, don't they, from us
I
when we're
realise
doing
that.
Urban
We're
Miners.
covering the
Can they
cost
buy
on
them
this.
online?
Well, we should be. That's what I'm saying. We if we get enough advertising and enough demand for it, we could do that. We could sell them online, and it could be something that, yeah, certainly David and Mark and I to have a look at.
Yeah, but we have done this for the community, so we have got this stuff going through for them. So there's the pictures of them. Just wanted to raise this Pikaro. I've actually spelt that incorrectly there, sorry. It should be Pikaro versus Pikaro. So the school, as you probably all know, is changing its name. And I just wondered if it was something that Community Board might be interested in recommending to Council, that they look at investigating a change to Pikaro Crescent to align with the name change of the school, because that actually is the correct name of the area. It currently is spelled P-E-K-E-R-A-U, not A, which is actually incorrect. So I just really wanted to pop that in there to see what the feeling was from Community Board. I had a brief chat with Bill about it, and he said if we were happy to suggest it, mana whenua, we're comfortable with us doing that. But obviously it needs to be a Community Board initiative, not just an Ange one. So any thoughts on that?
You've said there, Ange, I've attached the relevant information regarding making these changes. Whereabouts was that?
No, it wasn't there. We had a hiccup and a little bit of a miscommunication, which was, hang on, what the relevant information, let me just jump into my email, Susan. So I'm sorry that didn't end up being included. Kieran, are you quicker at finding this for me, or?
What are you looking for, Ange?
You know, that the email regarding the name changes to a road.
I've got the naming policy here ready to go with the renaming.
Thank you.
Points. If you want me to do that, I can do that.
Please. That's just what I was looking for, because that was what I had intended to be included. Thank you. So this was what we had meant to get included. So this just outlines the actual current policy that is in place to be able to make a name change. So I would expect if we were to do anything, we would make a recommendation, and then staff would probably, I presume, would be responsible for taking the steps that need to be taken in regard to speaking with ratepayers. I mean, we could help and, you know, go and see the Picarot Crescent residents in particular and see what they think of it, talk to the school.
Madam Chair, I actually got the impression that staff would not be doing this. It would be it's a resident-led request, so the residents would be getting the
I
appropriate.
see. Sorry, yes,
yeah.
my fault. Sorry, yes.
I guess, Ange, in terms of your suggestion, we'd have to find, in order for the community board to make that recommendation, I guess we'd have to have some kind of feeling from the residents affected and those around, whether this is something that they want us to do for them. I don't move in that particular area, so I have no real. I don't have any friends actually, even with children at school. Oh no, one friend with a child at school at the moment. So I'm of no help in terms of gauging what the feeling is in terms of potential name change. So I'd kind of be hesitant that as the board we make a recommendation in that regard, in lieu of there being any clear indication from the affected residents that that's their preference. And Karen's right. It's although it's instigated and driven by the community, it's not something you just say, hey, we want to change the name and then dump it on staff desks and they have to do all the legwork. There's no budget for that. So yeah, it's definitely community initiated.
Richard?
Yeah, if it is something to do with the area, I think the school is a bigger area than the road, and having to go through all the work and expense of changing the road name when the school is probably more significant change.
So, hang on, you've lost me. So the school will become Picarot, but the street name would still stay being incorrectly spelt as Picarot Crescent. I don't just quite get what you're saying in regard to.
The school's already changed their name, haven't they?
Yeah, I think they're about to, or if they haven't already, yeah.
So I don't see why the street name should be changed just because the school has changed the name. So I wasn't meaning that we change it just because of the school. It's because of the reasons that the school is changing its name, and that Picarot is spelt wrong, for one, and secondly, the name of that area is actually Picarot, not Picarot. That was my reasoning behind it, which was brought to my attention by someone in the community. But as Kieran's pointed out, and Susan has rightly said, as a community board, we probably can't drive it, but what we could do is we could initiate going to the residents and finding out if they want to do it, and then assist them to
to do the things that they need to be able to change it, if there was an appetite to change it. So that's really where I'm coming from. But if nobody wants to do that, then, you know, that's fine. It was just a suggestion. So we'll move on to the transport. Oh, sorry, Kane, did you want to say something?
Oh, yeah, I actually, I mean, I think it's something we could have a discussion about. I don't know how you'd go about getting that feedback. But I actually agree with you. If the name's wrong, then I think it's wrong, isn't it? So I think, yeah, some kind of discussion or something would be good. Don't know how you would go about that, but I actually agree with you. So.
Thanks, Kane. All right. Well, I might ask a few questions to some people that I do know that live in that area, and just see what they think. And I might be able to get a bit of a Facebook thing going to get a bit of feedback, and do it through the school. Get the school on board and see if people that live in that area and send their kids to the school, because that would probably give you a pretty good indication. And as I say, I know a couple of people that live in that street, so I can just ask them what their feelings are and if there's an appetite to actually correct it so it is given its correct name, not a made up name that's there through misspelling.
Through the chair, could I also add that if you're going to do that, maybe you should inquire as to what the process is in terms of what other things will require changing, because I know that in the past we've discussed name changes at council, although it seems terribly appropriate in many instances around our town and two towns. It's actually a really big deal. It's huge. I mean, Lou, you're nodding your head, you know, in terms of emergency services, utility changes, or like it is quite a logistical task. So although there might be an intention to change because it's incorrect, I guess that probably needs to be tempered with the understanding of what that actually is going to involve, and it is quite an involved process. And I don't mean to rain on your parade, but I think it's important that people know what they're up for if they want to embark on that process. And certainly the school, you know, it's gone through quite a process too in terms of holding board hui, and it's now approaching the ministry, and, you know, it's quite a staged process. So I think you're best to try and get a bit of a handle on what that might involve and what that might look like for the residents if the notion did find favour.
Yeah.
So they're going to the decision knowing that.
No, that's a really good point. Thank you.
Can I just say, I just agree just quickly with Susan completely on that, particularly from Civil Defence, Land Information Act, all of these people have all got to go through. I just say it probably was never misspelt. If you have a look at the name, it's obviously been shortened. And
it's misspelt, because the spelling on mine is wrong. It currently is Pekerau.
Okay.
It should be, if it was left in the shortened version, it should be Pekarau. So that's where the mistake is. Okay. Apparently. So anyway, that's all good. I'll make a few more inquiries and ask a few people and see what they want. I mean, it's really up to the community. It was just something that was suggested, and I thought, okay, I will follow that up and see what everyone thought. Transport strategy submission. So that's been extended to the 22nd of March. So we need to be able to get together to meet to discuss our recommendations. So at the end of this meeting, if everyone could just stay behind long enough to set a date, or we can do it right now if that's more convenient. And then we'll need to make a recommendation that we do a submission, and then I'll just be the one to approve the final details. So if everybody's happy with that, can we make a date now of when we could get together next week?
Good idea.
Not Tuesday.
I was going to say not, I was just about to say not Tuesday. Okay, so not Tuesday, any other day?
I can't do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I can only do Thursday.
All right, what's Thursday the 17th like?
Yeah.
Joel, you're good?
Yeah, no,
that's the day you dress in green.
Yeah.
Oh, St. Patrick's Day. All right, well, we'll just come in green. Richard, are you all right with Thursday the 17th?
No, Tuesday. No.
Pardon?
No.
All right.
What about everybody? Are you Kane Thursday?
I can do Thursday.
So everyone except for Richard can do Thursday. What about Monday the 21st? Doesn't really give us much time. It's pretty blimmin' tight.
Yep, I can do Monday.
Well,
Can
if you want
anyone
to
not do Monday the 21st?
if you want to do Thursday, just send stuff to me and I'll read it and send an email.
Well, it was sort of more that you were going to be part of the discussion as to what we were going to put in as our responses. So then, but if you want to do it that way, we can do it that way. If you're all right with that, because I'd probably prefer Thursday personally, just so it gives me a bit of time to get it in and everything.
The
Jill?
other thing, Ange, is can we have it not too early, like not at tea time, at 7 o'clock, please?
So what time suits?
Well, 7 o'clock suits me. 6 o'clock, I'm doing dinner with the family. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so 7 o'clock. So Richard, are you all right for us to discuss it and then we'll send you through what we've discussed and then you'll just comment on that and I'll then get it in? Or would you prefer that we do it on the 21st?
No, everybody's up for the 7th or for whatever day it was, Thursday.
And I don't mind if it's any of those days and other days and I can't attend. I think it's more important that Richard attend than me. I mean, Lou and I will hear it at a different date anyway. So from my perspective, it's more important that the elected community board members have, thorough input on it rather than, making it so just Lou and I are available.
Yeah, that's
so from that perspective, pull any day out you like, and if I can't.
Okay, well, let's go back to the. Yeah, that's actually a really good point, Susan. Thank you for that. What's Wednesday like, Richard?
Yep.
Jill?
Yep.
Lou?
Oh, I'm out. I've got an executive meeting.
Kane?
Wednesday the 16th.
Yeah. But then we
That's
lose
okay for
both
me.
our councillors. So are we happy to do that rather than just Richard?
Yeah.
Or else, what about if we go, Tuesday's no good again. What about if we go Monday the 14th? Holy moly.
Go the Wednesday. That should be fine.
Yeah, but if we go
Wednesday,
Wednesday, we lose both you and Lou. As opposed to only one of you. So what was Monday the 14th like?
Yep,
everybody.
good.
I'm a no then.
Yep.
Sorry.
I think
Yeah.
though, from my perspective, Ange, we've already, as councillors, we've approved it out for consultation. So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how you stand, but I certainly don't feel like I'd have a whole lot of input to have.
Well, I feel that we're
we've been
discussing
through
it. We're discussing it at another level. So if you put it out for discussion, and what you people put back is what we're going to discuss
Yeah.
and have as a submission. Aren't we?
All right. Well, you guys have given me permission to do this, that it is not going to include you. So
100% totally fine with that.
yeah, Wednesday the 16th, then at 7 o'clock. Good to go?
Yep, look at it.
Righto, locked in. However, there is a small catch with that, in that we wanted to discuss the fees and charges, but that basically falls under the same ambit anyway, doesn't it? For you guys, you're going to be discussing it elsewhere anyway. So if we just include our discussion around what we think about the fees and charges, are you all right with that as well?
Yep.
Cool. Okay.
If you like, you can just send me an invitation, and if I
Yeah.
can make it later, I could possibly slip in.
Okay, good as gold. So we're going with 7 o'clock. Oops, better put that to PM. Done. Save. Righto. Sorted. Now the Who Are We Te Awamutu survey, as I've said there, will be
Madam
published.
Chair, we
Oh,
still
sorry.
need to actually get the
Oh, the
community
recommendation.
board to agree to do a submission.
Yep, thanks, Karen. Sorry, I was just getting ahead of myself. Okay, so can we please move that the Te Awamutu Community Board submit to the Waipa District Council, submit to the Waipa District Transport Strategy with the final details of the submission to be approved by the chairperson. Have someone to move that, please? Richard, thank you. Jill, second. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Sorry. Point 5, Who Are We Te Awamutu survey. So yeah, just very quickly, there was an article in the paper We've got Pack and Save on board with a $500 grocery voucher, so hugely grateful to their support. And as I said there, the survey at that time of writing was out to the community board and chamber. Had just a bit of feedback from Susan in regard to the article, but and a couple of just small typo comments directly relating to the survey, but otherwise I'm assuming everyone was okay with the survey. But if there's any further comments in regard to that at all.
Yeah, I'd like to raise a bit of a concern, I guess. Obviously, it's following on from the email I sent, which I circulated to everybody. I guess I have a few questions, but I think I'll probably start by just raising my concern about an agent or a group associated with the Waipa District Council entering into an exclusive commercial arrangement over a matter that's actually public good or interest. I find it a little bit concerning because it really calls into question the integrity of the whole process. And it also challenges the independence of the role of independence of the media in question, in my view. So I just wanted it known that I had a real sense of dis-ease about that, and I don't think it's appropriate for our board to be entering into, or a working group from the board to be entering into an exclusive arrangement of that nature. I don't think it's a good look, and it does not bode well for the integrity of that process. I also want to know who was appointed as the chair, and do we intend to get any formal reports, and if so, at what regularity are they going to be? So those 3 points. I have other things that I'm quite keen to discuss, but I think those were probably the first couple of issues to raise in the first instance.
So let's just start from the in relation to the exclusivity and partnership. It's purely it's not actually a formal, as I pointed out in the email, it's not a formal arrangement. It's purely a in kind. There's no money transaction whatsoever. The Te Awamutu Courier / NZME have offered to support the survey by way of promotion, and in return asked that they were the ones that provided the stories and the updates on the project.
So if the community board was approached by other news outlets, we would decline to comment. Is that the expectation? Because I'm struggling to understand the exclusivity of an arrangement when it comes to something that's relating to a public and community interest or event. You know, I find that whole thing a little bit confusing.
As I say, there's no formal, it's an informal agreement that through Dean at the Courier, they have offered to promote the survey through the Te Awamutu Courier in return for them being able to run the story and have the first run of the story. If someone came to me and wanted to ask us some questions about what we were doing, then we're allowed to comment. There's nothing in writing that says that, you know, there's no, like I said, there's no formal agreement. It was purely they're prepared to help support us and do some additional promotion and all for at no cost to promote the survey. So I'm kind of, no, there's nothing, you know, there's nothing tying us down to say that if the Waikato Times came and asked us about what we were doing, that we couldn't make a comment. So I think this is quite frankly a little bit of a mountain out of a molehill, in that the Courier is trying to support what we are doing, and personally I think we're probably being a little bit finicky, especially in light of the fact that there's no money, there was no formal agreement, no one's signed their life away. It's merely an offer of support. So, Richard?
Yeah, I have to agree with Susan. I don't have to, but I do agree with Susan. And that this was a working group, and it was a group called under a different name, but now it is connected, associated with the Chamber of Commerce and the Courier. I knew nothing about this until I read it in the paper, and it's got Te Awamutu Community Board blasted all the way through that whole thing. Surely we should be informed about this sort of thing before it goes to print.
Righto. Okay. So from now on, everything that, I mean, we had no guidelines of any sort that came from us as a community board about how you wanted this to go. We had agreed that we were forming a working group and that they would operate getting the survey up and going. I mean, how did you think we were going to let people know? Was it going to be word of mouth? You know, we were going to do a press release to let the community know. I'm sorry, but right now I'm kind of feeling that is the whole point of this survey is to find out about what the community wants. It's supposed to be a goodwill thing. It's not supposed to be a discussion in legalities. You know, there is no money transacted here. It is purely the Courier offered to help. Dean wrote a story, but from now on, if he writes anything else, I will make sure that it comes to each and every one of you. If that is what you want, you need to give me a very clear mandate if you want to read every single thing in regard to who are we Te Awamutu before it is printed in the paper. If that's what you want, just let me know.
I think in all fairness, we need to...
Excuse me, Richard, Jill's put her hand up. Jill.
It's quite upsetting, especially when a lot of people are online listening to this at the moment. We did have a meeting and we did discuss the survey, not all the ins and outs, and I can't see any issue or anything wrong with it. That's my opinion, and I know I'm speaking from other people as well in the community, not just my personal thoughts. I think it's been well done, and yes, some of it may not have been worded quite right, but the intent was there to do the survey. Should be the end of it. Thank you.
Richard, you had thanks, Jill. Richard, did you have something else you wanted to say?
Yeah, like I said, I think that certain aspects of it needed to be sorted, perhaps a report to us, because it is a working committee. We should know what's going on.
And I have given you updates in each and every one of my reports so far. So you have been, as best as I can, keeping you up to date. To be fair, I didn't include the press release. I saw it on the Wednesday night and it went to print on the Thursday to be able to get the survey up and out there and start getting it happening, because we haven't got a huge amount of time to be able to, you know, get out to everybody, then get it all back in and analyse it before elections come around. So we are under a little bit of time pressure. And like I said, the main point of this is to find out what our community thinks and wants. And the intention is all good. But as I say, if you guys want to nail it right down, we need to have that discussion, and we probably need to sit and have it now and have a set of rules that we're going to follow. That one, every press release is brought back to the community board. Everything that you want to see before it is actioned, you need to let me know. My understanding was that we formed this working group. We were given the liberty to make some of these decisions ourselves. We agreed that we were doing this with the community board, that we were getting their support. Yes, Susan, you are absolutely right that we formed the working group, but we are working with the chamber to do this survey. So for the wider community, the important part is that community board is working with another service / organisation to be able to do this for our community. I think the semantics that we're getting into here are pretty sad, quite personally. I think the bigger picture, we're all trying to do the right thing. There's no money. There's, you know, like, really, I'm sorry, I actually find this, you know, like quite, I don't even know what the right word is, actually. I'm just quite gobsmacked, to be honest. Kane, have you got anything to say at all?
We voted
Sorry,
you.
Jill.
We voted you as chairperson, Ange, to make these decisions. Yes, we're all part of the community board, but we voted you to be the chairperson to make these decisions. The end of the matter.
Okay, so Susan, you've got your hand up. There's something else you wanted to say, and we've got to address those other things. Sorry. Dog. Out. Sorry about that.
Got your dog out. Yeah, look, I'm not calling into question the intent. That's not where I'm going with this. It's not about the project per se, but it's about the fact that there are rules and procedures that we have to follow, and conflicts of interests and pecuniary and non-pecuniary gains are things that we have to be really acutely aware of, because we're all being paid from ratepayers' money. You know, this is something that we have to be really aware of. And I suppose when it comes to purporting to have delegated authority to strike not only partnerships with other groups, and then also to strike, albeit informal, but clearly stated in that article, exclusive arrangements for press arrangements with one publication, I think the question needs to be asked, are we following the right procedures? Is this right? I'm not saying I'm not calling into question the group's work and that they're intending to cover. I'm just calling into question the process, and that's what has to be sound. Otherwise, it really undermines the validity of all the actions that you're taking. And we have to be above question, because this is an association or an agent of local government, and it's ratepayers' money that pays all of our wages at the end of the day. So I guess it's not a personal thing, Ange. I'm just trying to understand whether the right process was followed. And if it wasn't, then let's learn from that. But if you're convinced that it is, then that's you're entitled to that view. I don't agree in this instance, but I guess that's where it sits. I guess. Yeah, no, I won't go any further into it, because I just think we have to be able to be above question in terms of the way that we do things, and I just didn't feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, and like I've put in my email to you, I do see your point. Mm-hmm. I suppose from my point of view, we never outlined any sort of process, and now you're coming back and saying this is what we should or should not have done.
The process should still be.
Sorry.
In lieu of, even if there's an absence of telling you what the process should be, it's pretty well known that there should be a real transparency in terms of arrangements you make, and purporting to make exclusive arrangements with one newspaper. I mean, even if you'd asked governance team or Sally or Brad or anybody, they probably would have said, oh, probably it's a little bit awkward, you probably can't do that. God, it could have called me, and I said, no, I don't think that, this doesn't smell right. You just can't do that. And I guess add to that the fact that I suppose you used to work for the Courier, your website. I
wasn't there. Actually,
but you used to. I'm just saying, painting a picture.
Yeah, but it wasn't me. I wasn't there.
I know, but I'm just saying, painting a picture here, because this is the whole thing about conflicts of interest. It's not just it's not a mathematical equation. It's about how it's perceived by people.
Yeah, and I understand.
And your website hosts the Courier PDFs. You know, so it's all getting quite cozy, and I just don't think it was an appropriate move to then go out in a press release and refer to it as an exclusive arrangement. You could have done the release, cool, whatever, or have the article done, cool as, but it's purporting to an exclusive arrangement that really flies close to the wind, I suppose. And from my part, I don't think there was any delegated authority to call it a joint arrangement with the chamber. We never discussed that. Again, I'm not worried in terms of what that means for the project. I just think we've got to follow by the rules, and if we're not following by the rules, it starts getting a little bit hairy for us all. That's all.
Yeah, no, point taken. Jill,
We need to move on to number 6 now, thank you.
do you want to chair the meeting?
No, but, I think,
no, sorry,
well,
there was a couple of other,
all this.
yeah, there were a couple other things that Susan wanted to raise. I've just gone and forgotten now. We got so deep into the courier one.
Who's the chair and what's the arrangement in terms of reporting to?
So Shane is acting. Shane Walsh is acting as the chairperson. And at this point in time, we didn't have any reporting requirements because we hadn't actually said that we wanted a report. I was bringing updates via my report, but if you want an official report from Shane, then I will request one, and we need to decide how often you want that and what you want included in it. So
I'm just suggesting we put some structure around what goes on. That's all. I'm not saying
it's probably
if people don't want to hear about it, that's cool. But I'm just saying, why don't we put some flesh around this so we can know where we're going and get some firm understanding about their activities and what they're coming out with.
Yeah, well,
it doesn't have to be monthly or anything, but
no,
I think it's important that we have that understanding.
Yeah.
So just through the chair, that was something that I was just going to suggest as potentially an opportunity going forward for you, is that the actual group does come back and report to the community board on what work they're doing on and provide that, I suppose, what the next steps are. So there's some level of connection there in terms of that. I think what the matters have been discussed tonight. And I think to be clear in terms of Waipa District Council and the approach that we do, we obviously need to operate in that open and transparent ways with all of our partners as well. So I think, these conversations may have resolved itself if this working group does come back and report, and I'm sure the governance team can provide us some direction in terms of how the working groups do work in the Cambridge Community Board, because they do have a few there. So I think Chair, there is a great opportunity there for the working group to come in and talk about the work that's being done, the connections, and then providing that connection in terms of the next steps going forward, so there's clarity for everyone. So that's just a suggestion.
Cool, thanks, Sally. I'll follow up with you on that. Okay, so if we've finished with that, just the boy races. So really stoked to see that the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee have discussed the boy racer bylaw, and there's some more work being done there to investigate the best policy changes and things there. And I've spoken with a couple of the locals and with the police again, just to see if we need to have any further evidence on hand to provide with them to support what they're doing there. So unless anyone's got any comments around that boy racer stuff.
I just wonder, Madam Chair, if there's a link to some of the vandalism that we're seeing and these people. There seems to be some nebulous links between some of the vandalism we're seeing and random vandalism and this group of people. So there seems to be quite an escalation at the moment.
I think the ones out at Bulmers and Arapuni Landing were certainly associated with those guys. I doubt whether the ones in town are so much, and they've actually vacated us for the meantime, and apparently they've got some spot in Hamilton that they're busy leaving their tread all over the place on at the moment anyway, so hopefully they'll leave us alone for a bit. But I expect that Richard probably would be able to speak more about this, but often when you have ongoing vandalism and graffiti, etc., there tends to be a group of people residing in town for a while, and then once the police sort of work out who it is, they move them on and it'll come right again. But sometimes it's just a person or a group of people's MO that they like to do that sort of thing, but let's hope that they go soon. Anyway. So can we just move that the Te Awamutu Community Board submit to the, oh no, I don't want that one. Sorry, wrong one. The Te Awamutu Community Board received the chairperson's report of Angela Holt, chairperson. So thanks, Kane. Second. Thanks, Jill. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right, so just in regard to, I'm just going to, the late item.
Madam Chair, did you want to do any board members' reports from meetings
Yeah,
attended on behalf?
I said I would do this late item. There's not really much to discuss at the moment. I need to make sure that you've all received that information and can read it. And so we will just have a discussion about it on the 16th. So that was just all I wanted to add about that.
Madam Chair, sorry, you've got me confused here. Have we moved on to the late item? If so, if the community board wants to make a submission, it needs to make a motion to submit at this meeting.
Oh, I thought we did that at the start.
No, that was to accept it as a late item.
Oh gosh, I'm a wally. Okay, sorry.
It's all good.
Yeah.
So did you want to move on to
the confused about? Yeah. Okay.
So did you want to do the board members' reports, or did you want to move on to the late item now?
Let's just pop the late item in, because I said if we did it at the end of the chair report.
Sweet as. Cool.
If that's all right. I mucked that up. I should have just done it at the time, seeing as this was all we were going to do.
Well, I guess the first thing is whether or not the Te Awamutu Community Board does want to put a submission in for the schedule of fees and charges, bearing in mind that probably most of them haven't actually seen it yet.
No, that is true. So, on the assumption that we do want to do a submission, and which I think is a good idea, I think that we should have a look at it and either support it or not support it.
You'll want to make a submission even if it's just one in support.
Yeah, that's my feeling. So is everybody happy that we move a motion to do a submission for the fees and charges?
I think it's important to put a submission in, so I'll support it.
Yep. Okay, so Kieran, what's our wording, please?
That the Te Awamutu Community Board submit to the schedule of fees and charges 2022-23 with the final details of the submission to be approved by the chairperson. That's
Okay,
with the view that we'd be discussing that on the 16th anyway. But yeah,
well, I'll support that.
Thanks, Lou. Someone to second that? Kane, those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Cool, done. Okay, so any board members attended any other meetings on behalf of the community board or got any updates to make? Jill?
So last year I talked quite a bit about doing something with the youth, and at the beginning of last year we had Parab from the Jets Fitness come and talk to us at a community board meeting that he was happy to have students do some exercise in his gym. And the idea was that, it wouldn't cost anything. So we've had COVID in between, and I've been talking to Gina from the community services team at the council. And so rather than think of all these things that we could be doing after I talked to the intermediate and they had lots of ideas and COVID hit again. So I'm actually starting next Wednesday. Parab from the Jets Fitness is going to start an hour's free session, but you can only go to the gym if you're over 14 years old. So the idea was just to do something for the teenagers in town, intermediate level, who've got nowhere to go, and there's a lot of them wandering around town that time of day. So next week on Wednesday, the intermediate age, so that means the different schools, will be able to come there for up to an hour just to have a bit of exercise. I've gone through school newsletters, and I've also gone through the council to find out if it was okay to use the area behind the gym, behind the library, and to let them know so that they weren't mowing on that day. So I've done all that protocol. So just to let you know, rather than originally I thought, we'll do something on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but I thought if we just start once a week for the youth to get them off the streets and doing something like that, that'd be hopefully a good enough incentive. So I've talked to a few intermediate students, seeing I've got 2 in my house, and they all seem to be quite keen to, the boys to develop their abs to show the girls who are doing the exercise. So yeah.
Oh, well done, Jill. Thank you. Anyone else been or done anything? Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'll go, Lou.
Yeah, just quickly, Joe, both you and I, Ange, met with a group of, we call them aged, so they're older people who were looking at putting seats up in the intermediate and the suburbs around Awamutu so that they can walk to the supermarkets or to shopping area and have a way stop, something that they can utilise, have to sit down for a few minutes. One of the gentlemen we're talking to is in his 80s and walks from way out on Frontier Road and carries his groceries back all the way. And he's just saying that we talk of urban mobility, and this is just something simple that we could probably promote. You were there, Angela, so you're quite aware of that. I think it's a good effort, something we could promote and, keep well up. So...
how are we actually best to promote that? We brought that up last time. Would it be through that urban mobility?
Yeah, urban mobility. The guy that you're talking to cannot do Zoom. I checked with it yesterday.
Okay, cool. Yep, lovely. So I went to the Kiwanis a couple of weeks ago and just talked about what Community Board does and the purpose of Community Board. And they're a great bunch of guys doing lots of good things, fundraising to help our disadvantaged kids around town. Been with some email discussions with the Memorial Park. They are keen to do some signage or get some plaques made for the inside of the pergolas to name the roses along the pergola walkway. So I did wonder what the Community Board thought of that if that was something that maybe we could offer to support. I know when I've walked down there before and walked around the outside, I thought, oh, I wonder why they didn't put the names on the inside of the pergola along the concrete edge, because that's where everybody walks. It sort of seemed a bit weird that they were only on the outside. And I've already mentioned the issue with the rubbish down there is still an ongoing problem.
If I may interrupt, Madam Chair, would this be an opportunity for me to promote the discretionary fund, which closes on the 19th of March? And would that be an appropriate time for that group to apply for funding for that signage?
Yep. I tell you what, the Memorial Park group, I doubt whether they've got a bank account as such, will they? I don't know. So they're just a volunteer group, and so without a bank account or anything.
If I can, through the chair, I think they were investigating those options, because I know that we had discussed last year at some time about them looking at fundraising potentially as well and supporting, but I'm not sure if they progressed that.
Can I just speak to that, Madam Chair? They haven't as yet got a bank account. And the second point that will hold them up, there is some strong discussion on the actual names of some of the roses. So they're having quite a discussion at the moment. So identifying the roses. So to get that in by the 19th might be a little bit too tight a time frame. There is talk, of course, within the Sunken Cross of the replacement of the red rose that originally was at the head of the Sunken Cross, which is no longer there. So that was all part of that infrastructure that they were talking about. So there is some maintenance going on at the moment, a little bit of work on the park with the paths and things, but I do know that they don't have, I think, an account at the moment. As such, they're sort of, as you say, quite a relaxed group.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like...
They're good. They do a great job.
As a community board, we are able to, agree and make a recommendation at some point to support things like that in the community. They don't have to be, because it is in the Memorial Park. They're not doing it for a private community group or anything. So it is something we could consider outside of our discretionary fund. And I was just sowing the seed if people, you know, thought that that might be something that that we could support along that pergola. So yep, that was my couple of things that I'd done. And as I'd mentioned earlier, I'd had a bit of a discussion with Bill from Ngāti Apakura around the, just had a bit of a catch up with him from around some mana whenua things there, and discussed the Pekaro situation and what they were doing out at Naroto. So I will follow up with him, as I mentioned, just to double check and see if he can't come along and maybe just finalise and clarify that stuff around the waharoa and the signage once and for all, so we can get that moved on. But if there's nothing further there, the date of the next meeting will be 6 p.m. on Tuesday, the 12th of April. Oh, Lou, sorry.
Yeah, I just want to mention a few things to people on the council. The first thing is the RSA is going to try and organise an Anzac Day. So we're hoping to have a dawn and a civic parade at some type of format. So that will be going ahead. Well, it will go ahead. And so we're getting that infrastructure in place. From council, I just want to make one or two minor comments to everyone. We're getting a massive amount of legislation thrown at us with very short submission periods. These are draft legislations, and not just 3 waters. We're talking of even rewriting the Resource Management Act into 3 acts. We're talking of the Civil Defence Act being completely revamped. We're talking about the Representative Act for all of us here sitting in these rooms at the moment as local body authorities. All of these things are being reworked and revamped. And the problem is that the haste that's being done, people cannot give due consideration to what the end results of these issues are going to be. And they're going to impact on all of us at some level. So I really think you want to get down and read everything you possibly can and make yourselves conversant with what the facilities and the procedures are, because if we don't, we're going to be overwhelmed with legislation that won't fit our community. It's just a rant from me.
It's a good rant, Louis.
No, I'm go, Richard.
Yeah, just a question to Lou. Do you need anything for Anzac Day?
Yes, Richard, we're actually, at this point, I've got a committee and myself working on it. But yes, we just to put everybody in the picture, we're hoping this year to have a service at a sunken cross. We're going to host a service at 8:45 at Kiki at the memorial there, and then I'm going to have a civic service at 11 o'clock. We might not be able to march or anything, and I've put it in the application, COVID restrictions being imposed. So we don't know what we do there until we get to April anyway. But if you want to give a hand, I'll put your name down, Richard, certainly.
Yeah. What about funding?
Yes, we do. And I'll be putting an application to the discretionary fund.
Cool.
That on the 19th. It's already being written.
Cool.
Cool. I was just going to add in regard to your comment, Lou, about doing all this reading. You know, as community board members, you know, we're pretty, you know, we've all got full-time jobs. So I'm not quite sure where we fit in all of this extra reading that you recommend we do, as much as I'd love to be completely up to date with all of that extra stuff that you're talking about. But anyway, mind you, not all of it. Actually, only Kane and I actually have full-time jobs anymore, don't we? Because we've got a couple of retired people. So maybe we can delegate all that reading to Jill and Richard, and then you can come and report back to us on the bits that we need. That'd be super helpful, guys.
A little less on the retired, thanks.
Hey?
A little less on the retired.
And I just want to before we sign off, just to clarify one thing in regard to that potential conflict of interest. I would like to clarify to the public that I have not worked for the Courier for over 4 years. I've had other employment for coming up 5 years in June, actually. So I have nothing to do with the courier. And I would also like to highlight that our involvement, or my involvement with Te Awamutu Online, hosting the PDF copies of the Te Awamutu Courier. We have absolutely no input as Te Awamutu Online into the content of the Courier. We simply upload the Courier in its published form onto our website for the community to be able to access. So in light of that, I don't believe I have any pecuniary, non-pecuniary, or any conflict of interest in relation to the press release. And I just do want to clarify that I did see it prior to it going to press, though, the article that was written. So just to make sure that's very clear from my point of view. Sorry, and for the public to know my involvement with the Courier. So the date of the next meeting, item 13, will be at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, the 12th of April. Oh, sorry, Susan.
No, I just had my hand up. I was just going to follow on from the reports from council. I was just going to add that the public places bylaw that was adopted in terms of the antisocial driving issues, when it came before the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee, Lou and I both emphasised that we had the Te Awamutu Community Board to thank for their work in this space, and that it was drawn to our attention through the public forum, and acknowledged the work of both ConSafe and the Te Awamutu Police in progressing issues. So certainly the work of the board was acknowledged in that regard.
Cool.
Thank you, Susan. That was excellent. Yeah, well done. Thank you.
Okay, so third time lucky. Our next board meeting is going to be at 6 o'clock Tuesday, the 12th of April. So we can close the meeting at 7:33, and we'll catch up with